Welcome to an episode of Inner Work Guides, Alchemical Gnosis, Yoga of the West. I'm your host, John H. Reed III. Let's get to it. Sustainable Transmutations, the Tarot. I am sure many of you are familiar with tarot, especially as it pertains to its modern use in divination. What many do not know is that tarot, as it is used in the Hermetic Western Inner Tradition, is actually a book. Each card of the major and minor trumps are chapters of that book. The chapters give details to those who have been given keys to read it. Precise information about the true nature of humanity, the workings of the mind, and the inner spiritual initiation that leads to what Hermeticists call illumination, as well as detailed information on the subjects of alchemy, Qabalah, and astrology. My education into this arcane knowledge came from studying the material of the builders of the Adytum, also known as Bota, B-O-T-A. Their material can help form a good foundation to build one's Hermetic study upon. But just as with everything in the Hermetic science, the surface material presented looks complete. One can only acquire the full comprehension by pulling on the dangling threads exposed in the text. Truth shows and expresses itself in various forms throughout the planet, and it is not the domain of any one culture or system. I have also detailed information about some of the tools that I use in alchemical inner reconciliation, such as the Sedona method and EFT. Those two systems people might think are a modern creation, but the use of their fundamentals, you can show how much of what I had already discussed in regard to EFT and Sedona is actually demonstrated in one form or another in the tarot card of the magician as used in the Bota system. You can Google a search for Bota tarot card magician to find an image. So let's get into an explanation of the symbology. On the bottom left of the card, you see the number 1. This number signifies the beginning or first stage of an event or thing, which in this case represents you. Now, the magician is master of both time and space and the elements of creation. Hence, from his power, or your innate power of creation, your previous perceptions of the world around you form presumptive expectations that give birth to your daily experiences. To the lower right of the card is the Hebrew letter Beth, which means house, which can also be considered a container. It reinforces the idea that the entire potential of the universe is contained or housed within the true self. Thus, our work is an inner work, for a house is where the family or inner life occurs. The roses in the picture represent desire, and it will be remembered that in Sedona it was stated that there are 9 basic emotional states, and of course what are desires except strong feelings or emotions that each human being can experience. Those roses symbolize those states. Close examination of the picture will show that there are actually 10 roses. The 10th representing the physical body through which the emotions are given vitality and able to be expressed. The 5 roses in the garden in front of the magician also represent the 5 senses, for it is through our senses that we receive information about the world around and within us, both of which form one world and set our desires ablaze. The 4 white lilies in the garden represent purity, because all expressions within nature are pure when properly understood. The lilies also represent the 4 types of human knowledge, which are revealed knowledge, speculative knowledge, scientific empirical knowledge, and practical empirical knowledge. The 4 implements on the magician's table represents the ancients' 4 elements and the 4 primary motivators for any action we can take. They are the wand, element of fire, motivation for safety, the cup, element of water, motivation for approval, sword, element of air, motivation for separation, and finally coin, element of earth, motivation for control. The red robe the magician wears symbolizes the Mars or nerve force in the human body, the same energy that we aspire to harness through the practice of EFT. The magician's passive, focused stance signifies that this work is primarily mental, with some physical movement in EFT. This stance, however, is not a sign of inaction, but a powerful demonstration of the magician's control over the physical body through a steady focus of the mind. The magician's stance also denotes that he is wholly focused on the moment, his attention firmly fixed on what is happening now. The white robe underneath the red robe also signifies purity, but in this case it represents the true incorruptible purity that has always been and always will be, as denoted by the truth of self. The magician's upraised hand and lower hand pointing to the ground denote that we utilize a higher aspect to bring about change within our lower states. Indeed, in both EFT and Sedona, one realizes there is a problem. Through the use of our cognitive capabilities, one sets up a dynamic that retasks the energy. The garden in front of the magician and the roses in the arbor above him represent the individual's current mental state. The more we have control of our thoughts and desires, the more cultivated our inner garden will be. The infinity symbol above the magician's head stands for, of course, infinity. For the true self is timeless and ageless. However, it also stands for the law that opposite effects are caused by identical causes. The determining factor lies within how we perceive a given occurrence. Into which garden does one's habitual mentations take them? If you wake up and see it raining, do you see a dreary day or the earth being replenished and revitalized? Finally, the belt around the magician's waist represents eternity because the serpent swallows its own tail. It speaks to the occult doctrine of there being only one ever-expanding moment named now. Yes, how many of us time travel daily by pulling into memory things that have happened in the past and vitalizing or opening old wounds afresh? How much better would it be if we all lived in the here and now, with focused attention on the beauty transpiring moment by moment in front of us, rather than the umbra of yesterday or the apprehensions of tomorrow? This is just a high-level account of this card. Really, an entire book can be written about all of its correspondences. Next week, we'll meet back up with the Traveler. Thank you for listening to this episode of Inner Work Guide's Alchemical Gnosis, Yoga of the West. Don't forget to follow or subscribe. Contact me by writing to guide@innerwork.guide. Go to my website, innerwork.guide. Create an account to get on the mailing list. Read the blog and listen to the podcast. Click on the donate button to support my work.